Hi, I'm Patrick Gilmore, and this is Deconstructing Destiny. What would a spacecraft be without weapons? And this couldn't ring more true for Destiny. Destiny has double-barrel turrets all along the hull, numbering in the dozens, and they're able to fire rapidly and track fast-moving targets, which is never a bad thing when you're locked in a space battle. Now, on the underside of the hull is Destiny's main weapon, and when you need a little more punch, that may just be the ticket. I'm also a weapons expert. That's a true story.
We knew that Destiny would have to have some kind of weapons system. You know, for a long period of time, the ship is traveling through space unmanned, so it would need to be outfitted with some kind of weapons system.
The ship managed very well without us for a million years or so, and that's because it was able to defend itself just long enough before it could jump back into FTL.
We always conceived of a bank of smaller weapons, like anti-aircraft type weapons that would attack any smaller ships that were coming in, you know, doing kind of flyby type attacks on the Destiny, because Destiny is a pretty big ship.
When we started with the original shape and then scaled it to the size Destiny needed to be, the surface had these large flat surfaces, and Robert and I both wanted the surface to be very rich with GAC, with antennae and turrets, and that's really what the Destiny's weapons are modeled after, the turrets of a B-29 bomber. And
then there's Destiny's main weapon, which we've always just called the main weapon. We didn't give it any kind of fancy name. We were always, you know, what should we call it? What should we call it?
There was the main weapon and the forward weapon, but then we didn't want to call it the forward weapon because some of the small weapons are at the forward section, and they would be the forward weapons. So, and I think we finally settled on gun batteries and the main weapon.
It is a larger version of the other weapon that just fires a big honking blast of energy in any direction we want.
And it's the one that lowers, and that's the one that does the big damage when we really need to fire at huge ships or huge objects.
Fire! Got him!
So it's a pretty simple concept. It's kind of like a, you know, a battleship or something like that, where you've got the big gun, although battleships have multiple turrets, but you have the big gun, and then you have the smaller guns that would attack the airplanes that are coming in, because you're not going to aim your big giant gun at a small squadron of planes that are flying around and zipping in and out as they attack you. So we wanted to have that double capability of shooting smaller, more maneuverable targets with smaller guns, and then having a big weapon to hit something big, another big ship that's comparable in size to the Destiny.
I mean, one of the interesting things about, as we get into season 2, is the fact that we're beginning to discover more about the ship. We're beginning to discover not only rooms. I think, you know, when we discovered the bridge very early on.
We have tried to make sure that we continue to discover new compartments on the Destiny all the way through both seasons. Could we find a compartment that has a giant thing in it that we could launch that becomes its own weapon? But something that's tied into the main systems, I think we've discovered those weapons.